Okay, sing it, man. Sing it. We're live now. I was hoping I was going to catch you. Hello, welcome to Rule Zero. It is my turn to host. I am Rollo Tomasi, in case you were wondering who all the people are today, as soon as I turn this goddamn thing down. Okay, there we go. Hello, everybody. I'm Rollo. This is Rule Zero. We've got with me today, I've got Ryan Stone. I've got Carl from Black Label Logic. Jonathan from Modern Life Dating should come on at some point. He's probably sleeping right now. He has been working extra hours with respect to what it is he does with his online job, I guess. He's been on that Twitch show. What's it called? Gone Doc or something like that.
Oh man!
And
the shrillest show in the manosphere.
Yeah. If you're looking for respectability in the manosphere, that's not your show. But I like that show a lot. But I can see like I can see the appeal for like the younger generation kind of thing, but I can only take it in measured doses, because like if you guys don't know what we're talking about, it's a show where they get like anywhere between like 4 and 12 people on there, and they're usually some of these girls who are just like, I don't want to, for lack of a better term, they're just cam girls. I'll try to be nice about that. But most of them are between like, say, like 18 and about 24 years old. And then they get guys on there too, and they interact with each other. And apparently, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is the model, is they get the guys on there, and at any point, if you want to boot anybody off of that show, it costs you like $50 to boot them off. And if you want to bring them back on, it costs $75. And then the guy will bring them back in, and then they talk about I don't know, intersectional.
Do they even have topics?
Well, sometimes they do. Like the guy who's the host, I can't remember the dude's name, but like they, he has a list of topics, but usually he's just like letting guys like run. Well, really, guys are trying to run game on the girls that are on there, and Jonathan goes in there and just dominates. And he's like a really dominant personality on those. And you could see the difference between like a guy like Jonathan and some of these other guys who are just, they try to run beta game. They try to run like kind of like identify with her, identify with the feminine kind of game. And they want to be on team woman. Whereas he's like, he pushes back against that, obviously. And the women really respond positively to him. And these other guys, and these guys are kids to me. Like these guys are anywhere between like, say, 21 and like 28, somewhere around. I think it was a guy who was 29, and John's like the oldest guy that's on there. And so he's running this game, and it's just it's fascinating to watch, because you see this younger generation of guys who think that what they're doing or what they're saying is going to resonate with these girls, and the girls just aren't having it. And then when Jonathan pushes against that, and he's sort of like the purple cow in the herd of cows, the women just like respond to him very, very positively. And even if it's like even if they respond negatively, he's getting a rise out of them, and it just sucks all the oxygen out of the whole conversation, because they're all paying attention to him. And so I don't know what he's doing right now, but he's probably sleeping that off right now. So anyways, guys, should we just jump into it, or do you want to let's just do a really quick roundtable and see what everybody's doing right now? Ryan, I know you guys just got done with Red Mornings, and then I wanted to cover some current affairs. But today's topic, by the way, so for anybody who knows, before we jump in, we're going to talk about just do it, like the importance of putting the red pill theory into practice. And I don't think that we've ever really covered this topic in depth before. And this is something that Carl came up with as far as the topic's concerned. So I'm going to let him sort of take the lead on that. But just so you guys know, that's what we're after today. We want to find ways to put things into practice and understand why it's important to put them into practice. And then also aspects and areas of your life that the red pill and red pill theory and understanding intersectional dynamics, how that affects not just your interpersonal relationships with women, but like your interpersonal relationships with family, coworkers, that kind of stuff, but putting things into practice. So that's where we're going to start today. But Ryan, what do you got going on, man?
Yeah, I'm straight. It is busy, man. I'm working as much as John, just not shrieking. 7,000 words. It started off with just a very flippant tweet on how boundary enforcement was better than vetting. and a lot of traditional conservative wannabe Norman Rockwell types got their panties in a bunch. So I thought, I'm going to explore this because clearly it's hitting a nerve. So 7,000 words later, I came up with a nice little 7-point listicle as to why vetting a woman for marriage is a waste of time and boundaries are better. Video, essay, that, and then another one with Carl. I've been sick half this week, and so these things are just a huge slog, but I do it for you guys. And now gin and tonic has got to be one of the best throat soothing things I've ever had.
Say, man, it's like a lozenge.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, I'm so busy pumping out content, I don't have enough time to market for it. So just stick around, watch the channels, and keep up if you can.
I thought that vetting conversation was really interesting because it showed to me the I don't know, investment, I guess, that kind of mindset has when it comes to understand. I'm not saying that vetting isn't important. Of course it's important, but like just to say that even if you like challenge the idea of vetting, like it's
against somebody's ego.
It's against somebody's ego, or
you're telling a guy he doesn't know what he's doing, even if he doesn't.
Or here's this. They didn't know what they were doing when they made the decision to get involved with the person that they are involved with right now. And I've always said this is like vetting is a good idea. And we're going to end up doing an episode of this with Rich, right? I think because Rich, when the next time Rich comes on, we'll do the vetting episode. Because Rich and I have talked about this before. What are you looking for in a woman, right? Like, okay, well, what I'm looking for in a woman at 28 years old is not going to be who that person is when they're 38 years old. And people say, well, yeah, of course. But I think what they want to believe is that character and personality remains at least somewhat static in a way. And
that'd be nice.
Yeah, that'd be great if that was the way it worked out. And there's plenty of divorced dudes who, think that she turned on him or that something changed in her and they grew apart or something like that. And so like vetting is important. Yes. But just
marginally important.
Take it with a grain of salt. Like do your best. I'm not saying don't do your best. You do, but take it with a grain of salt. Carl, what's going on?
Well, my stance on the whole vetting discussion to do that, I think it's a good thing. But my main question that I also brought up on Red Morning, if you spend 2 years vetting a girl, you're so invested in her. Like, what odds are there that you'll be like, nope, gotta dump this chick. She's obviously too crazy. It's never going to happen. And, I'm a big fan of actually getting to it because this whole vetting thing, it's just inventing vernacular to make something that's common sense sound scientific. Because what you're doing is you're getting to know the person. And the whole idea is you should get to know the person you're thinking of getting into a relationship with, whether that's business, whether that's personal, whether it's sexual, no matter what. But in the end, that's going to give you the starting point. And like if the guy is, let's say he's 20 years old when he starts vetting this girl, and he's 22 when he finishes, and then they move in together, then they buy a house together, then she pops out a couple of kids, then parents start dying off, grandparents start dying off, you start having medical problems, you start having financial issues, work issues. All of these are things that are catalysts to change a person's personality and traits. And even if you look at something like schizophrenia, that usually doesn't start to full break out, I think, until around 25. So, and same with a lot of congenital diseases. So a lot of the things you did in your vetting when the girl was 23 are going to be completely out the window when you're 38 and have been together for like 15 years. So yeah, should you get to know the person? Sure. Should you be confident that I vetted this girl for 12 months? She's going to remain like this forever. So it brings me back to that old adage, like men marry women expecting them to never change, and women marry men expecting them to change. So that's now what I've been doing. Well, I've been ranting about the manosphere as I've done the last 3 weeks, and I think I'm going to keep that for the foreseeable future because, quite frankly, you guys keep giving me so much fucking material. It's insane. It's like whenever I'm like most Sundays, I sit down and me and Ryan discuss the topic for next week, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to write a rant about this. And, like clockwork, by Wednesday, someone says some dumb shit on Twitter, and I'm like, okay, here we go. I could easily do 5 minutes just on this.
Yeah.
If you can't penetrate yourself, Carl, how do you expect to penetrate the web?
That's right. I did a couple of things this week. I did I got a new essay out that I probably should have published it a little earlier in the week, but I published it on Friday, and it's called Heirs of the Blank Slate. And I've been meaning to sort of develop this as an idea for a while now. It's been sitting in my drafts folder, and I finally got around to actually fleshing it out a little bit more. I'm presently reading The Blank Slate by Steven Pinker. And so obviously that's sort of helping me along with that. But I think it's interesting that in the manosphere, we tend to overlook this investment that a feminine primary society has in the blank slate. And a lot of social justice, a lot of feminism, a lot of blue pill thinking, a lot of just what we take for granted when we're discussing, even women who aren't necessarily feminists, they have been brought up in this understanding or this acculturation of feminist ideals or feminist ideas. And where do those come from? Well, they depend on the idea of a blank slate.
Yeah, so garbage in, garbage out.
And so when people like hit me up and they'll like, here, I'm sure you guys have seen this, and this is why I wrote this essay. Really, I'm almost considering doing a follow up for it. But when a guy, when you say women are hypergamous, women will say not all guys are or not all women are hypergamous, and some guys are hypergamous too, or guys or they'll try to qualify it. They'll try to say, well, if men do it too, men do it too. And they do it, and they do it worse. Yeah, and they do. What's that?
I said hypogamy.
Oh, hypogamy. Yeah. That was hypogamy. Yeah. Well, that's another way of sort of reverse engineering your decisions, like when it comes to vetting and stuff, right? So
that was useless.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like we believe that if something's true, particularly when it comes to gender, if something's true for one sex, then there has to be an equal and opposite reaction for the other sex, and that is absolutely false. Okay, men. We'll talk all day long about how men and women are different. I can show you article after article about how our brain structures are different, our endocrinology is different, everything about us, like our mental firmware is different, our evolved natures, like what our mating strategy is different, and people will agree with you all day long until you say something that like rubs them the wrong way, and then their automatic response to it is, well, if it's good for the goose, then it's good for the gander. It's like, no. You just said a minute ago that men and women are different. Now, why are you trying to say now suddenly that they're all the same? Well, the reason you are is because you have an ego investment that depends on men and women being the same, men and women being functional equals, and they are not functional equals.
Only in the good things, in the bad things.
Exactly. Yeah. So exactly. So if I go and I say, well, women are more predisposed to have a better facility, they have a higher proclivity for communication, subcommunications, and they do. I mean, if you look at the way that women's brains are wired, we can see that they have a much easier time with language. They tweet more, they talk more. We talk about the differences between communication styles, how women are interested in the feels and men are interested in the information. That's actually a part of our makeup, how we're made up. If I say something like that, women go, oh yeah. We're better at talking, we know you guys, we have feminine intuition, blah, 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 blah. And then I go, okay, well, women are hypergamous. Only women are hypergamous. And it's all about, alpha seed and beta need. Then they lose their minds. No, men are hypogamous too, or what, all this other crap. And so I'm writing about that propensity for us to want to find balance. Like human beings want to find symmetry. That's why we find symmetry, a balance. We want to, when we're looking at things that we consider beautiful, they have symmetry to them. They have an inner balance, whether that's, something like when we're listening to music, we're looking for harmony. We don't want an off note. When we're looking at faces that we think are beautiful, usually they're symmetrical, that kind of stuff. It's the same idea, is that we presume that there's symmetry even when there's not symmetry, because human beings are really good at pattern recognition. So I was exploring that a little bit because I'm getting sick and tired of guys coming up to me and saying like, they toe that same line. They toe the idea that that we're different right up until a point where something just rubs them the wrong way, and now they want everybody to be the same. And I also jump into a little bit about how we presume the blank slate is also very dependent on social construction. So when we say gender is a social construct, but yet when we transition a child from one sex to another, we always go to the binary. Well, why wouldn't you go to one of the other 68 some odd genders you say exist, right? Why does she have to be a boy or a girl? Why can't she be like a Zer or a Z or whatever the hell you made up, right? Why not that? Because there is an idea that we're all the same, that everybody's just born as this blank slate. And so whatever we put on that slate, whether that's social or, it's nature versus nurture, whatever we put on that blank canvas, then that's what exists. And it's just 100% horseshit, and it's provable horseshit. And now we're still in an age where we should say, you know what, let's move on. Things are different. Men and women are different, but yet we still return to that blank slate when something challenges our ego investment. So I did that. The other thing I did is I went and did an interview with John Hawkins, and it is now available. If you check my Twitter feed, you will find the links. I did it. It's an audio. It's a podcast. It's an all audio podcast that I did with John. And I covered some of the misconceptions that are being floated around in the manosphere right now. I didn't talk about anything that happened back in June. I'm just saying that I'm seeing a lot of deliberate misdirections, misconceptions that are being, fomented, I guess, in the manosphere right now. So we talked about those for a bit, and I like doing those. I've written posts where I try to address the most common misconceptions, but I also understand that people are going to just believe whatever the fuck they want to believe anyways. So
it's annoying, isn't it?
I feel like I have to do that like every year and a half or so, because we see this come back in cycles, and people will say, well, all those red pill guys, they've never written anything about, or they've never discussed anything about X, Y, and Z.
I love those. When I pull out an article you or somebody did from 2008, yeah, we sorted that out a decade back.
Exactly. These are discussed. I've been doing this for a long ass time. So guess what? It would probably behoove you to go and look either through my blog or even through So Suave or even through any of the old, seduction blogs. Anybody who is writing in the sphere right now, go and check that out before you start making claims that no one's ever discussed this, or nobody ever discusses marriage in the get the fuck out of here. Okay. Go and look. And so it feels like I got to hold people's hands, right? Okay. Come over here, John. Here's where I did it over here. And here's the links. Then they get pissed off. Well, you just want to get traffic for your website. I'm like, dude, at this point, do you really think that I'm trying to get traffic for my website? But anyway, so I cover some of those misconceptions. Go and check that out if you are interested in what those actually are.
It's one of those things, though, Rollo. I think you're a little bit jokingly blue-pilled when it comes to men, because a lot of the time when these guys put out these things they never talk about love in the manosphere. They never talk about marriage. No one's ever addressed how important it is to vet your wife's MBTI. Then usually they're not doing that as a conclusion. They're doing it as a setup to a punchline.
Right.
And it's very easy to see it when you've been a comic, because you get the whole, okay, they're doing that setup so they can deliver the punchline, but here is my product, here is my perspective, here is my niche. So it's just pure marketing. And I don't debate on Twitter for good reason, and that's because, debating on Twitter is like fucking in a canoe. You're pretty risky that something's going to go to shit there. So
yeah,
it's just marketing, and that's why I kind of did that. I put out I always love it when someone says something on Twitter and you throw a flippant joke back at them, and you get a 14 tweet thread back against you.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite thing, and that just happens because you poked at something that's true, and they have no logical defense, so they just have to attack. And if you start to parse these Twitter feeds in terms of ethos, pathos, and logos, you start to be able to tell that there is no thinking or no content behind this. It's all about creating those feel goods.
Yep.
So guys don't even have to do anything. It's just like, well, I signed up for coaching with this guy who's going to realign my chakras and call me a faggot for $300 an hour. So now I'm doing something about the fact that my wife hasn't touched my penis in 18 years. They're not going to do any real work, but they're going to sit there and have that testicular cancer meeting with Coach ABZ, and they feel like they're making a difference.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said about that. When it comes to Twitter, it's not a platform on which you're going to actually convince anybody of anything. It's just for people to just sort of sound off and yeah, you're right, feel good about themselves. I think what's interesting is like when you see that setup and then you get that thread of posts that come after that, you can clearly see that whoever, I'm not naming names, you can clearly see that whoever it is who's posting that thread had that on tap, right? They wrote it out in a blog post, or they wrote it out before they were going to, tweet it out. And I think it's interesting to see the people who believe that Twitter is actually a platform on which you're going to change anybody's mind about anything, or you're going to actually make some sort of, real sociological impact because you put out a 14, tweet thread about something. It's like, why not just simply go have your blog? Why not just go simply, you got all the time in the world, you can really flesh out your ideas and everything else. Why are you putting this on Twitter? And I think the why tells more about the person than anything else. It's not like I haven't done threads, but it's like I do threads. If I do a thread, it's just because that's sort of a stream of consciousness, not me copy and pasting things.
Oh yeah, it's toilet time. I love it.
Yeah.
No, but if I do threads on Twitter, it's usually because I have an idea that's not long enough or comprehensive enough to put in a blog post, but that I still think will have some value if presented. And then, like most of the guys who follow my Twitter know, like 50% of my content is just me shitting on people or making jokes.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's kind of my favorite. One of my favorite things on Twitter is when you post jokes and guys take them as being serious, and they start explaining to you why that is. And it's kind of like, I kind of imagine Jerry Seinfeld on stage, like, what's the deal with airplane peanuts? And some guy going up on stage to grabbing the mic and be like, well, Jerry, the reason we have airplane peanuts and they're packed in those little bags that are a pain in the ass to open is because under FDA regulations, you can only serve peanuts in airtight containers. And if you're going to take them up to 30,000 feet, then the peanuts have to be packed in an individually wrapped way so they don't rub too close together and risk getting into the instrument. I mean, what the fuck's wrong with you, Jerry?
Oh, my vagina's drying up right now.
All right, so let's move on. Let's move on to our topic for today. Oh, by the way, hit the like button if you have not subscribed to my channel or any of these fine gentlemen's channel. Please do. Except Carl doesn't have a channel. So you know what? Go follow Carl on Black Label Logic on Twitter. Then you can be the subject of his vicious tweets.
The worst thing though about those tweets is whenever I put them out, I see who likes them and I see who shares them in DMs. Like, this was an awesome tweet. Please keep bashing on this guy. And it's like no one ever tweets anything in support. It's just so funny to see. Like, I loved it when you went after this guy.
What gets me, and I always break this rule, and I just grit my teeth every time I do. But my rule is never to use like allegory or metaphor certainly not on Twitter, or even in some of my posts. Or I try to balance that in my posts, although I do get a little prosaic sometimes. Because the first thing that happens is there'll be some literalist autistic guy that's like, well, that's not really an apt metaphor because, the moon's not actually made out of Swiss cheese. It's made out of moon rock. And let me tell you, I studied moon rock from the time I was 5 years old to where I am right now. And I'm a moon rockologist, and just go into the longest diatribe about like why
something that's a metaphor is not exactly the same as the thing it describes.
I know.
So ridiculous.
Oh, hey, we got John. Yay. Good. We got you before we started the main topic.
Hey, sorry about that.
Are you awake? Are you okay?
I passed out. I woke up.
You've been working overtime, man.
I have been.
Well,
All the
John,
body language guys.
Cool.
Well, to be fair though, John, I mean, you kind of had a great chance at doing something there, but you insulted the guy on Twitch that obviously had a fantastic co-hookup. I mean, that would have powered you right through another 3 weeks of body language mastery.
We talked a little bit about your Twitch show. What is this called? Gone Doc or some shit like that? And
so I was
what
on
is that all about? Like just get and let's keep this short because we need to get into the topic. But go ahead.
So no, basically I was on 2 Twitch shows. Actually, I had this planned out just because I feel like there's such a good market to reach out to on Twitch. So there's 2 shows. There's a show which is called the Gone Doc Show, GONEDOC, and the Gone Doc Show filters contestants who go on the Raj Patel Show, which is like one of the largest shows on Twitch. Has like anywhere between 20 to 30,000 live stream viewers. And I just went on there and I just didn't think, I mean, Twitch is just really like beta male economy 101.
Yes.
It's blue pill dudes worshiping. Honestly, Twitch is the land of 6 and 7s. Like these girls, like if you're a super, super ultra hot girl, you're not like, slaving away on Twitch for a couple grand a month. Like, you're in Dubai, you're doing something with some high-end dudes. So you get all these chicks that are like 6s and 7s, which God bless them, whatever. And but they have like these overinflated egos because they live in this echo chamber of like beta males, white knights who are just constantly reaffirming everything they do with money and attention. And so they say a lot of stupid things. And I'm a guy who I'm okay financially, and I don't need to come in there and supplicate to anybody. And obviously, I'm ultra red pill, so I just come in there and I just started basically like when they would say some stupid shit, I would call them out on it, and then just make fun of them. And I was an immediate hit. Like after one show, they've been calling me to come back, and nobody really has the gall to stand up to some of these chicks. And what's funny is some of these girls, like this one chick, like was really attacking me, saying I'm, typical, reading the SJW script, you're a chauvinist, you're a bad guy, whatever. And she has like a little bit of a gap in between her teeth. And I was just I said, listen, you need to chill out before I park a car between that gap in your teeth, right? Everybody laughed at her. She's like, you're such a jerk, whatever. Turns out she lives in Orlando, and I'm going to be in Orlando August 31st for my meetup. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be in Orlando August 31st. I told her the next day, I was like, we should meet up sometime. She's like, yeah, that sounds good. I would look forward to meeting you. So it's just funny to see in real life the breakdowns of it. And then, Rolo actually came on my show, and we did an actual in-life breakdown of me. Just basically, it's social dominance 101. I walk into the show, and I just took over the whole thing, and everybody, I was the center of attention, and I was controlling everything. A good demonstration of amused mastery. But overall, it's been a very interesting thing to see happen. And the guys loved it, Rolo. The guys are like begging me, like, come bring back Rolo.
I gotta do it. I gotta do that again. It's funny. It's like whenever I do breakdowns like that, I did a breakdown of this video, and I forget the name of the show, but it was like a dating kind of show where they put people together, and I was doing. It was like one of the most popular videos I did was this breakdown of just saying what was happening, like sort of a play-by-play. Like it was a John Madden of the red pill, right? I'm telling you like the breakdown of the play-by-play, and I was just kind of doing the same thing with you. It would be really cool to do a show that is dedicated to just like breakdowns like that, so you can see what's happening in the moment, because I think that's really useful for guys, and that's kind of like what I wanted to get into today, understanding how things work in practice, and why it's important to put that red pill knowledge into practice. So like when I was on with Jonathan, and he was just showing you. I didn't see those videos prior to me coming on with you. You kind of just fed me those things as we kind of had to sort of like gimp our way through it too, because of the audio issues and all that stuff. But like I'm sitting there, I'm listening to this, I'm watching what's going on, I'm looking at the body language, I'm looking at the seeing where the conversation is going, where it began, where it's going, and sort of giving like this in real life play by play of what's going on. But I think that that's really useful to guys, because guys always want to know, what do I do? Like we were talking when we had Rich on. We were talking with Rich. Was it last week? We were talking with Rich. And Rich was just kind of like, he's kind of over the idea of like teaching guys how to get girls. How do I get girls? How do I, how do I talk to a girl? And yeah, it's one thing to have a lot of theory, and it's one thing to understand the red pill. If you read my book, and you can read my book 4 times over and read all the other ones and get into the blog posts and read everybody in the manosphere. But if you're not out there actually using that or trying to incorporate it into your daily life, and I think a lot of guys sort of do that naturally, but they don't do it intentionally. And that's really where I wanted to go with this today, is like, what are your intentions? Like, what is, obviously you want to live a better life. Obviously you would like to go from whatever position that you find yourself in life right now to some other position. Usually the guys that get into the red pill are doing so because they're sexless. They want, or I'm a 26-year-old virgin. How do I talk to girls? I've answered that call and that email so many times that it's like, obviously there's a need for this. Obviously there's guys who, they understand this stuff, but they just don't know how to implement it. They don't know how to put it into practice. And a lot of times it's just going out there and doing that. And that's why that show, or like that we were doing, I think is kind of useful, because it puts things in perspective. Like, here's how you can do these things. I think a lot of guys don't do this because they're afraid of what the response is, or they go in there too invested in the outcome. And people always say, well, you got to be outcome independent. I don't think anybody's really outcome independent, but you can be more independent than you are not. So I think maybe that's where we ought to start today. Carl, what exactly did you want to relate as far as the topic's concerned today?
Well, to piggyback and plug our Red Morning, we did our Red Morning today on mental point of origin and perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole point of doing that is, a lot of this whole thing with vetting, with dating and so on, it's to build yourself a sample size so you can actually make good judgments. And a lot of the time that requires figuring out, what kind of girl do you want? Because a lot of guys have this idealized idea of, this is the girl I want. I want the manic pixie dream girl. I want the California surfer girl. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're Indian, that the California surfer girl is some kind of holy grail in that culture that I don't get. But I get it. She has good boobs and vagine, so I get it. But anyway, the whole point was, you have to actually get out there and start dating some girls and practicing this. And then once you get some rejection or you get some success, you can go back and you can build on that. And what you're doing is you're building preferences by falsification. Because when you're going out there and you're dating a girl, and when you decide to dump her or not see her again, you've kind of decided that, I don't like this part of her, or she's great like this, but I don't like this. And over time, you build up a very large reference library of what your preferences are. And that can actually be, if you're doing vetting, that will be the values that you're vetting for. If you like feminine girls, okay, you've dealt with some masculine women or some domineering women. So now you have the idea of how to identify them early on. Do you prefer starfish cutie sex 2 times a month, or do you want sex more often with a little bit more enthusiasm? And it really hit home, because I have a couple of girls who like to slide into my DMs on Twitter. And one shared like a statement a friend of hers had made on Facebook, where it was like, I just want like a cute nerd who has no prior experience with having sex. It's like, why would she want that? Well, because if you're not having sex right now and you start getting starfish cutie sex twice a month, you think you won the freaking lottery. Like if you've never gotten any attention from a woman and suddenly you start getting attention from, a dumpy single mom with 8 of Tyrone's kids, that's your train coming in for your beta game. So for me, the whole thing with doing it is just reality testing, which was the subject of my last essay, because you can sit in your basement or your living room or your attic or whatever for years and just come up with theory after theory after theory. But sooner or later, you're going to have to get into that experimental side, and ideally sooner, because once you start putting it to practice, then you start seeing, will this work? And it was a major freaking problem back in the seduction forum days, because you had these guys who would sit at home and they'd come up with these extremely complicated, complex routines that they'd start to push everyone towards using. And in theory, they made perfect sense. The only problem was the routine lasted for like 45 minutes, and there was no one who could get through that without actually either screwing it up or having the girl just turn and walk away.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, it doesn't matter what I say, what you say, what Ryan says, what John says. If it doesn't create an effect in your real life, it's not worth anything.
No, I've always said that red pill is a theory and game is the practice, and I'm using the term game in a very loose definition here, because game for me, like obviously I'm not out there trying to pick up chicks and take them home and bang them. Okay, that can be game for a guy, but game can also be the game can also be working with a female boss. Yes, I saw your tweet, Jesse. Thanks for that. Or your super chat, Jess. But yeah, I mean, running game is actually putting that knowledge and that awareness into practice. And I mean, for lack of a better term, I have used game with my mom, right? So that I know that who she is as a woman, as as the mother of me and my brother, that sort of colors my understanding of who she is as a person right now. I've always wanted to do this too. Is like I've always wanted to do a show dedicated to like how the red pill has changed your perception of your family, and like who your dad is as a man and who your mom is as a woman, and how that came to affect you. Becoming blue pill and then becoming red pill, and then understanding and seeing it sort of from the outside in instead of from the inside out now. But there's so many different applications for red pill awareness that have nothing to do with, getting involved with a chick. But I mean, of course you can do that, but getting out there and doing it and understanding it is one thing, but interacting, like enforcing your will based on that knowledge is something I think it's really difficult for guys. Is they need to find that impetus. They need to find something that actually kicks them in the ass to go and do something. Like when you are in a crisis situation, when you are in a trauma, you probably are going to be less likely to go and try to experiment with things. Or if you're comfortable, you're going to be not want to rock the boat. Most guys who are married, who become awakened while married, they're afraid to experiment because they think if I don't do what I've been doing, or if I rock the boat, if I upset her or whatever, then she's going to hold out on me, and then I'm going to pay the price for that. Or maybe she'll leave me. I've had so many guys say this, if I ever tried any of that stuff you guys talk about in game, those girls would not have anything to do with me. And yet here we are, we're looking at like John doing exactly that kind of stuff. And what's the reaction, John? The reaction is these girls coming on to him and reacting positively to exactly that. So here you have like sort of concept and proof of concept. And sometimes guys need that proof of concept to see it like actually working, but then they don't believe that they could actually do something about it.
It's not just that.
It's all about,
if your relationship is held together by a mean word, and that's the only thing there, maybe it needs to die.
Yeah. I think guys are afraid to experiment. Go ahead, John.
No, I was just going to say, I was just going to literally say what you said. Like, guys are just like dating and understanding female nature. Okay, look, I know everybody here worships the red pill subreddit and all these things, but like, look, I didn't read all that stuff to learn my hardcore game. You know how I went on how I learned all this? I went on a fuckload of dates. I've been on more than 500 dates with 500 women. And guess what? I got rejected more than 60% of the time. That is why I have a ruthless game. That is why I can walk into any social setting and be completely comfortable with myself, because I know exactly what is going down. And you're not going to acquire this data from reading books. You're not going to acquire this data from doing courses. You're not going to acquire this data from YouTube. Okay. For most of you guys who are like saying like, oh, well, I'm studying right now and I'm acquiring information right now, then I'm going to go out.
I'm in monk mode.
Yeah. You're full of shit. Okay. Somebody's got to call you out on it. If you want to get the raw, hardcore skill of dating, you need to go out and you need to talk to women. You need to interact with women. You need to get out there and collect the infield experience, because that's the only place you will ever get it. You got to do the work. Son. Getting up there. I could say son now.
It's kind of the same thing with like the whole video games teaches guys to be school shooters. It teaches them tactics. No, it doesn't. I mean, the first guy you shoot a gun, that feeling of recoil, you have to get that practical experience under your belt, because that gives you another level to the theory. Because just knowing the theory it's better than not knowing the theory. But you have to be able to practice it somewhat. Because like the worst thing I see is when you get advice from someone who obviously hasn't done any practice. Like Ryan said earlier on Red Morning, like if a guy talks about getting a girl's phone number in 2019, I know he's full of shit, because no one number closes anymore. You get their Instagram, or you get their Snap, or their Messenger, or whatever else, and that's just how it happens. Or the Krauser had some epic call-out blog posts for day gamers, where this questionable-looking guy was putting up numbers that no one could ever have. Like he had I've been in Ukraine for 7 days. I banged 9 chicks and 4 of them were virgins. It's like, no, that's obviously a lie. And having that real world experience also allows you to tell when someone is full of shit. Because if you can easily spot, not to repeat our Red Morning, but you can easily spot when a guy has been active in the business world for a time, because they know the tribal language. You can tell if someone is a musician because they know the tribal language, or someone is military. So you kind of start to notice when someone has learned the tribal language of the red pill, but haven't put any of it into practice. And unfortunately, we do have a few guys like that who either they haven't read the theory, they've learned to parrot the language and are using that as a marketing strategy, or you have guys who have learned the theory, but they've never put it into practice, and now they are teaching others. And it's very unfortunate, because you're not getting a complete picture from anyone.
Right.
And being able to tell that, getting that experience under your belt, teaches you to tell real from fake. It's one of my favorite YouTube channels is a guy called Terrence Pop, and he had a great point. It's one thing to go to the range and shoot at targets. It will teach you to shoot at targets. It's a completely different ball game when the targets are shooting back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say is that for the very longest time, particularly back in the early 2000s, when all game was guys going out there and collecting data. Essentially, that's what they were doing. I mean, they wanted to get laid, right? But they were collecting data and they were bringing it back, and they were, aggregating all of these experiences and all of this data to understand why things were working and why things weren't working. And so you get Mystery Method, and you get RSD, and you get all these other guys. And really, that is, if you want to know where the theory came from in the first place, you have to go to the practice. And guys don't like this when I say this, but like, if it weren't for PUA, you would not have the red pill. If it weren't for PUA, you would not have MGTOW, you would not have MRAs, you would not have all of this stuff, like where guys are coming out and they're just sort of offshoots of this, because they were using that data set to build something else. I mean, that's why I got into riding the red pills, because I saw these guys going out there in the field. I'm already out in the field because I work in the field, and I'm watching this, and I've always been kind of like a student of human nature anyways, and I like to people watch. I like to see what's going on. I like to understand sub-communications. Like when I can't even hear a conversation, I'm watching a guy trying to pick up a girl at, like, say, a promo or something like that. I can see what's going on just because of the body language, and like feet, where are their feet aimed, who's got the back to who, that kind of stuff. And you look at the body language that goes along with that, and then what these guys wear. You don't even have to hear the conversation. You can just see this and observe it in the wild and see what's going on.
You can see like who's supplicating to who as well with the body language,
and
right?
and you want to know, like when I went on with you and we did the play-by-play, John, the reason I know that is because I've seen it happen so often that I can tell where that's going. Or when I'm listening to the vocal intonations of that one cute little blonde girl who was like all into you, I could tell how she's like demurring to you, but she's not to these other guys. And it's not even what she's saying; it's how she's saying it and how she's directing her. You say, "Well, she's directing her chi, or her energy or something, whatever you want to call that." She's directing that to you in one fashion, and she's directing her conversation to other guys in another fashion. Well, how do we understand that? We have to be out there and do that. And I've got one of the reasons I put buffers as one of the key chapters in the first book is because even back in the early 2000s, I saw guys starting to put really buffers between themselves and rejection. And that's the hardest part. I think a lot of guys, that's a first element I think most guys need to overcome, is this fear of rejection. And Pook all had the almighty Pook from back in the day had this great saying, and it was, rejection is better than regret.
Yes.
So
yes.
if you go out there and you do it, it's better to have gone out there and fell flat on your face than to stay at home, jerk off, and read books about how you should, interact with girls. You have to go out there and you have to get that infield experience.
There's one guy in the chat right now, Matthias, saying that like, 600 dates, what a waste of time. But listen, idiot. All right. The thing is this, okay? This interpretation of understanding, like, as terrible as I'm about to use this, real social dynamics, like understanding real social dynamics, understanding like body language, who's supplicating to who's really in charge. This carries over into the corporate world. This carries over to the sales room floor. This carries over to the point when you're about to get a car, when you can, like, if you know because if anybody's going to go buy a car, they're going to screw you. But if you have game and understanding of this and understanding of like, human communication, which you acquire from paying attention on these dates, you can literally create businesses where you're printing money. You can, look at me. I went on that show. Do you know how long, that Raj Patel show? Do you know how hard it is to get on that show, Rollo? It is one of the hardest shows to get on. And I just got confirmed right now that I'll be back on the show today at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Nice.
They want me back on the big one, the one with 20,000 viewers. So
I'll have to be your pit crew for that one.
Do it, man. I'm ready.
600, and even if 600 is too much, that's the whole point of these guys writing this stuff down. So maybe you only have to do 200 and then read up like a mother. How you spend your time is however you want to spend your time, but the number can't be zero.
Right. Well, I've always said it's not a numbers game so much as it is a persistence game. Because like I tell guys this all the time, it's like, you guys say, well, if it was such a great deal, then why does it take 600 approaches to get one positive response? It's like, no, that's not how it works. What it is it's a persistence game. It's going out there and consistently doing it. Like if you went
to have to go to medical school for 8 years and I only get a degree once.
Here's the thing. If you went to the gym and you wanted to increase your bench pressing or something like that, do you go to the gym for like 2 hours and just do nothing but bench pressing? I'm just going to do this until as many of these things as I possibly can, and then I'm going to expect my chest to grow. Probably not. You're going to go there the next. You're going to have a time where you take some downtime. You're going to have to go back. You're going to have to learn how to do the lift. You're going to have to learn, and you have to come back, and you have to persistently come back the next day, do it again, come back the next day, do it again. So it's a persistency. It's the same thing with when it comes to dating and when it comes to understanding women. Like I tell guys this, I said, don't go out there and spam approaches, because a lot of guys think that that's the answer. Just go out there and just say, and approach 100 women tonight. No. approach one woman every Friday night or one woman every Saturday night, and do that every weekend for a year, and you will have done 52 approaches. And of course, learn from those. Hopefully some of those are successful. If they're not, oh well, you're learning. It's better to, rejection is better than regret. But you're out there and you're doing it, and you're doing it consistently and persistently. And at the end of that year, you will have done 52 approaches, which is more approaches than the average beta chump does in a lifetime. So if you're out there and you're actually doing that and you're persistent about it and you're learning about it, just keep at it. I think what guys do is they like when I see these guys on something like Pickup Artist Hate or sluthate.com or something, like these guys that just like have this seething hatred for pickup artists. And I guess I can understand why, because it didn't work for them and it wasn't the magic, it wasn't the cheat codes that they were hoping to get. But they don't understand that it takes time. You don't just if you walk into a dojo, they don't just strap a black belt on you and go, okay, jump in the ring with this other black belt. They don't do that. You have to learn your chops, and you have to get out there and you have to practice it. And it's not just going out there and saying, hey, baby, and throwing pickup lines and stuff like that. It's understanding, and it's a process, and it doesn't have to be all consuming or life consuming. But you do have to go out there and you do have to do it, and you have to take that chance. Most guys don't get past the point where they won't take that chance. They don't give themselves permission to experiment. They don't go out there, with nothing to lose. That's the thing with guys who are awakened while married. They feel like they have something to lose. Or if they've got a girlfriend and it's like, my girlfriend's not having sex with me anymore. Well, you better change something up. You better figure out something, because otherwise you're going to either break up with her or you're going to live in this miserable state for a while. What are you going to do to change that? Oh, I don't know. If I do it, she might break up with me, that kind of stuff. See, that is indicative of me to like a scarcity mentality, which is something that we got to go work on over here. Now, I'm fearful of rejection. Oh, hey, my text game is great. Okay, what about your in-person game? How great is that? Like, I get guys, and I'm sure you guys get this too from either on Twitter or maybe guys who are hitting me up for like a counseling session. They will send me screenshots of their interactions with their girlfriend or with a girl that they think that they like, or they'll show me like some Tinder exchange and say, was I beta doing this? And it's like, dude, the fact that you have this as your buffer, like this is the thing that's keeping you from actually having a face-to-face conversation with somebody. That's the problem that you need to work on right now. Not whether or not you were alpha or beta or whatever the hell you think you were talking to this girl. It's you actually setting something up. Like when I talk to guys about like their awesome text game or something like that, I tell them, okay, did you actually meet this person? Did you actually set up a date? I think that when we're talking about like buffers such as like texting, when we're talking about that, I'm not saying you shouldn't text girls, don't use emojis, but I don't think you got to, it's a modern world, right? But I think all of that needs to be directed towards setting up an in-person face-to-face meeting with that person, because guys will tell you this all the time. It's particularly MGTOWs and particularly black pill guys. They'll be like, well, look at this Tinder exchange. She only wants the hot guys. She only wants guys with the six-pack abs. She only wants guys that are, you can't get past the physical side of things to even get to that point. Well, that's what you need to understand. That's your limitations. Fine. You need to be able to put yourself into a situation where you can practice it. Where are you going? Are you going out? What are you doing socially? Most of the guys that I counsel, particularly guys who are divorced guys, their first problem is they think, okay, well, I'm divorced now. I really want to get another girlfriend, or I want to get a wife, or I want to remarry or something like that. These guys don't even have a social circle. They don't even have a group of guys that they hang out with, much less like they could be, talking to women in a social situation. So, unless you're very extroverted and unless you're very, socially intelligent, I guess, you're not going to just hit the ground running after something like that. You have to go out there and you have to practice it, and you have to initiate things on your own.
I can't believe guys don't want to do the in real life thing. Ridiculous.
Yeah, that should be your preference, I would say.
Well, that shouldn't be. That's
easy.
The goal.
Listen, it's easy to sit there and type on the keyboard and be like, I'm king of the alphas, I'm the man, whatever. But it takes a real man to suit up, hit the gym, create the good body, create the good financial life, and get out there in the real world, talk to a girl and negotiate via game. having sex with her and doing it again and again and again. It's
I'm not even-
extremely hard.
Yeah, I'm
It's
not even going
extreme-
that far, John. I'm just saying,
Well,
if you want to sleep with girls, you have to talk to them, like you have to get them in front of you. So if
Yeah,
you're
and
texting
it-
and not even going for it, it's like, what are you wasting your time for a pen pal?
It's super hard. It's super hard to cultivate the lifestyle to be like a super pimp. But even if you want to just be a guy who just sleeps with one new girl a week, it's very hard, and it's very easy to sit there in the chat and be like, oh, I don't need to approach 600 women. It's a waste of time, whatever. All that is ego protection. At the end of the day, the reason guys like me get so much ass is because the majority of guys are cowards and they do not want to do the necessary thing to get game, which is stepping up and approaching women. What is she going to do? Is she going to shank you? Like, what are you so afraid of? Like, what is she? Are you afraid of a little girl? Go to the gym. Do
Carl's
some
right
deadlifts.
there, man.
Yeah.
He did
Or
shake.
like, I mean, and the other thing is like, you have to have that in exchange. Like, I can remember when we first started, when I was writing for So Suave, there was this thing called the DJ Bible, and the DJ was not disc jockey. It was the Don Juan Bible. That was what we used to call an alpha or a player or whatever. He was a Don Juan, right? So we call him a DJ. And in that, the DJ Bible was a series of posts that were collected. I think I might even have a link to it on my sidebar on the Rational Mail. But it was a series of things that you could do and put into practice in your daily life that would at least benefit you in a social sense. Like, most of the time, like the thing that we started with was making eye contact. Like, if you were a guy at college, instead of like walking around with your head down and just doing your own thing and looking at your phone or whatever, they encouraged you to make eye contact with people that you're just walking down, walking through the quad or whatever, you're walking down the street, you're going to and making that eye contact, making that smile, not even just like, hey, I'm crazy, not like that, but like just that connection, because most people don't even want to make that eye contact. Eye contact is central to the human attack posture. That's why people don't like to make eye contact, because if I'm staring at you, or if you're like, what do like prize fighters do when they're doing the weigh-in thing? They just stare at each other, and they're like, and you can tell this communication is going on, and they're not saying a goddamn thing. They're just looking at each other because of that eye contact. A lot of people don't want to make even eye contact because they're afraid it's going to be taken the wrong way, or particularly for women, it's like, oh, he's staring at me. You need to make just these little basic things, like to make that, to actually to say hello to just a regular person. You don't even have to, it doesn't have to be some chick that you're scamming on. Most guys can't even get past hello. They don't even want to say something. They want to be isolated where they're at. And that right there is a buffer. And when I talk about buffers, by the way, it's buffers against rejection. So a buffer could be texting. Another buffer is pornography, because it's keeping you. It's a buffer against you being rejected, because pornography porno never says no, right? What was some of these other ones? I mean, it's
Twitter, because you can't always go on Twitter and bang on about how great you are.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'd say Twitter is probably the Twitter and the chat on YouTube, and YouTube comments are probably the biggest buffers there are, because it's we can talk about it in terms of relationships, but you also have those buffers with conflict, because a lot of guys will trash talk you and start conflict on the internet when there's no risk of them being punched in the fucking face. It's the same thing, more or less. I mean, they're doing something online with a buffer in place that they can't do without that buffer. And one more thing, you should try and limit your emoji use when you're texting a girl, but the smirk emoji is the biggest innovation in text game since the SMS came.
I still like the 9/11 emoji. It's my favorite thing to say. I don't understand text messaging too well, then put building, building, explosion, explosion, plane, plane, plane. Did I do this okay?
That's funny.
That's good.
Well, that's pretty good. So anyways, like, okay, here's the other thing. Just to John's point, when you're saying you got to go out there and do 600, 1200, whatever approaches, how about this? How about you actually go out there and do 10? Most guys won't even do one. So that when you say 600, it seems like this impossible thing, or it seems stupid. Like, why on earth would I do that? I'll put myself out there 600 times for rejection, and maybe one or two of them will like me. That's not a real good ROI. And they start breaking it down into as many literal reasons why they don't want to go out there and do it. But the fact of it still remains that you need to go out there and you need to go put this shit into practice. Also, you don't necessarily have to be running game on girls. You can go and put it into practice where you're at work with the people who you're working with. Does that mean you're going to go and I'm not saying you're going to go and date your coworkers. I'm just saying that you're going to use principles that you understand from red pill awareness and apply them to other aspects of your life. Maybe it's dealing with your sister. Maybe you have a female boss. Maybe you have, and it doesn't even have to be female. You can use red pill awareness and game with guys who are beta guys who are there to really just sort of build you up. Like when I was talking with John for the show, was it Gone Doc? What was the first thing I said? I said, you need to learn how to use the guys who are betas around you to increase your game. And then people say, well, that's kind of dirty dealing. Yeah, it is. And you know what? They do the same thing. That one bald-headed dude what was he trying to do? He was trying to AMOG you from the word go.
Oh my God. I got my sign.
And if you can use that, so here's the thing. Now you're not trying to pick up on this guy, but you are using your game awareness and your red pill. Joe's mad. You can use your understanding of red pill and intersexual dynamics from a same-sex perspective and understand what it is he's trying to do and use that. It's like jujitsu, right? You use your opponent's energy against him.
Yes.
And so
exactly.
that's and you're not trying to get in bed with this dude. You're just using his energy to promote yourself and to push yourself on. And guys say, well, that's really manipulative. Yeah, you're damn right. It's manipulative. And those guys will use it against you if you don't use it against them. Oh, Ryan, you're muted.
That was clever too. I was gonna say, and yeah, him AMOGing John with, I'm not comfortable with how you read the public profiles of Instagram things.
Yeah. And what did they do when I was on the Raj Patel show? You know what they're doing? They all looked up my Instagram. They all looked up a picture with me without sunglasses, and they all passed my photo around their little community. They're all running their mouths like little 19-year-old girls. And like I talked about, it's female hypocrisy 101, but it was also guys doing it as well. So, I mean,
of course, they're broken women. And that's the weirdest part. Walking through, imagine that. I'm not comfortable with John. Does he really think a girl's going to go, well, that's awesome. Let me suck your dick. Like, no girl's going to say that.
That guy is the definition of a beta male white knight hater. If you want to see beta male white knight hater 101, I do a complete breakdown of this loser I found in real life. If you go to my channel, Modern Life Dating on YouTube, and then go to episode 110. Episode 110 is titled Male Haters and Female Hypocrisy, Twitch Breakdown Part 2. It's got about 1,000 views plus on it. That right there, you could see there's a guy named Joe. He's bald head. He's jealous of my full head of hair. But that guy right there it's a complete understanding of a guy who recognizes game, recognize he doesn't have game, recognizing a guy that has social dominance and seeing that he hates it and he tries everything.
Not have game too. That's why I'm surprised you didn't just cut to the core of it. Like, hey, she still won't fuck you, John. And that's usually the easiest way to shut those down. Or Joe, whatever. Do I really need to learn his name? Can I just call him fucking Ted?
Yeah, you got to get on the train, bro. We've been saying Ho's mad and Joe's mad.
Joe's mad. Yeah, she's still not going to fuck you, Joe.
That.
As soon as you say that guy's on the defensive, because that's his ultimate goal is he wants to be the guy that girls sleep with. And as soon as you say what you're doing isn't effective, he automatically, like everybody knows that's what you're not supposed to talk about. And you put it out in the open like that, it makes him very uncomfortable because he's naturally wants to argue with you saying, well, that's not why I'm doing this. And you're like, all right, then he doesn't want to sleep with you. He AMOGs himself at that point. That's why I love it. It's such, I want to make that hashtag go that she still won't fuck you.
It's hilarious. Hashtag, I coined that a while ago. But John, what you should do you have those like print your own T-shirt places in Tokyo?
Yeah, I could hunt them down. You know, surprisingly, it's very hard to get that done. I'd have to fight one down. But what about it?
No, it would just be great. Next time you go on, go on with a T-shirt that has hashtag "She still won't fuck you" on the chest.
That's funny.
Oh
You know-
man.
You know, it's
Now-
funny. I'm looking in the comments here, and one guy here says, "Get pickup advice from active PUAs." Duh. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good idea. I'm actually, and you guys can weigh in on this. I want to actually do a show with Troy Francis at some point. I'd like to have him and
we
talk
had him
to
on
that
once.
guy.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
Can't say enough good things.
Yeah, I want to get him on because he's actually out there in the field and he's doing this kind of stuff as well. Kyle Trouble would be another guy that I'd like to talk to as well, because these are, I think that a lot of people, when we say go out there and practice, that instantly think they've got to go put on elevator boots, paint their fingernails black, and wear a big top hat and have some sort of, fuzzy boa or some shit around their neck to go out there. Like, they think that that's still what PUA is about. And
If you want, I guess.
I will say this Mystery made it real easy to ridicule PUAs, but that's still our mental model of a PUA is Mystery, and that shit needs to change.
You know what? The guys, though, with like 30,000 Twitch followers or 110,000 Instagram account, that's no different. That's just different peacocking. So the concepts hasn't changed. The only difference is what is the aviator goggles now, and it's technically John's little shades he's got. That's his aviator goggles. His top hat is the Twitch channel he was just on, yelling at Hose and Joe's being mad.
Do you remember? Of course you do. So you've probably read my post. It's just called Alpha. It was one of my earliest posts that I wrote, and I used Corey Worthington as that video. And remember that video where he had his glasses on, and that little girl from the Australian news, whatever, she was a journalist or something, and she was a hot little honey too. She wanted to get with him too. You just look at the body language and just see what and so she's trying to tear him down. She's giving him a shit test, and one of those shit tests was, "Why don't you take those glasses off?" And he's like, "No, I'm not taking my glasses off." He's like, she's like,
"Sorry."
Well, she's like, "Why?" Yeah, she's like, "I'm sorry." She's like, "Why? Why not?" He goes, "Because they're famous." And it's just like, it was just like this. He wasn't like thinking about it. It just. That's why I called him the Alpha Buddha. And now he's since married some big fat girl since then. But at that point in his life, he was definitely, he had this alphaness that was to the point where it was zen. It was just something that came out of him naturally. Every response he would give you was a manifestation of his alphaness. And
he couldn't be rattled.
But that's the thing, is like, look at what they tried to do to you there, John. They tried to like get you to hey, you need to be vulnerable. Take off your glasses. Why? Are you insecure? Are you an insecure male? Take off your glasses. Cut your hair, Samson.
They called me bald too. I was like, dude, I shaved my head because of going insanely like busy with the webinar schedule for body language mastery. It's not like my hair's falling out, but that's what it's funny. Like, even, I have a bad problem. I mean, well, not necessarily a problem. I'm the oldest of my siblings, so I have like this natural dominance about me. And I even on these guys' show, I just come in and I kind of take over, and I kind of don't even realize I'm doing it. And then they have to kind of they get to the point. If a guy ever gets to the point in an interaction with you socially where he has to insult you or he has to physically threat you, know that you have already cucked that guy. And they both had, I mean, I didn't mean to do it to the host. I just naturally do it. But they were like, "Hey, Baldy, hey, idiot, shut the fuck up. I'm talking here." And they had to establish dominance on their show again, which it is their platform. And I respect those guys 100%.
God, I know. It's like and it's like a pissing contest too. It's like, who's gonna pee on the territory? This is my territory.
Dude, it was the guys used to hang outside the bar with their souped up Ford Focuses and their fart can exhaust systems, bragging about who had the best one. Meanwhile, the girls are in the bar with the guys. I hated that. The competition amongst guys that don't matter.
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of people's inactivity is, first of all, they're kind of lulled into this idea that they're going to in some way change their life by just sitting around and discussing this stuff. And I get criticized from the very earliest time. I got criticized for this because people say, "Well, Rollo's just theory." That's all he talks about is just theory. He's not out there. And while at the same time, the reason I'm coming to this theory and the reason I'm developing the ideas I do is because I'm out there in the field and I'm seeing this happen. Now, I'm not picking up on girls, but I'm seeing other guys do this. I'm watching this happen. I would probably be, if I wanted to make like a lot of money, I could like farm out my services as being like a wingman for guys, like I did with John there. It's like I'm kind of like the pit crew, and I can see what's going on, and I can sort of give you ideas as things are. I would make a very good wingman, I think, for guys right now.
Oh, I'm ready.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
Yeah, I mean, you and I we were technically doing that live. Like, while I was listening, and God, he's like, I can't listen for very long,
And
man, because that vocal fry is just.
Did you see who was listening into? Like one of those top MGTOW guys was the LFA guy. He was in the show watching. And I don't want to stress this. So I had some technical difficulties, and it was me holding a Bluetooth speaker with like a 15-second delay of Rollo watching the clips and everything. Despite all the technical difficulties, we had over 100+ live viewers. Like the content was so good because literally I didn't show wasn't pre-scripted, nothing. I literally just like blindly brought Rollo in. He analyzed these clips, and like the depth of knowledge to see like what you have and confirming that game does work in real life or even on a digital video game streaming platform. Like no matter where you are, game does work.
Yeah, and now and consider this. Like, yeah, the platform itself is like, here I am analyzing the exchanges that you're having with these girls and this guy. Now imagine you're in field. Imagine you're out at a club. Imagine you don't even have to be at a club. Maybe you're just at a company dinner or something like that. Maybe you're just, you're in some sort of social situation. That's, I hate to think that people would think that I'm always like this super analytical, I'm watching it like I'm like Jane Goodall or Diane Fossey, like Gorillas in the Mist, when it comes to like watching now the human male is going to go after the human. Now he's displaying, those kinds of things. Well, when I'm out there, I'm looking at, like I said, I'm just sort of like a student of human nature as it is anyways. When I'm looking at this, it's feeding into ideas, and maybe I'll write some notes about, but I'm not like out there constantly picking things apart. But I think that probably people think that that's all I do, is that I just want to, like, you can't have like a natural conversation with me or something like that. No, really, it's okay. So I think what do you guys think is the main hang up that guys have when it comes to going out there, besides rejection? I mean, we've already talked about a fear of rejection. Beyond that, what do you?
Fear of success.
I got it.
Fear of success. Do you think so?
I think it's more.
No, Ryan's right for sure. Go ahead. My bad, Ryan. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's the same thing. Guys are so worried. Like, well, what if this works? Then what do I do? And they're worried they don't have those training wheels. So if you say, go and approach these girls, try these things, give them a couple basic tools. Okay, then what? So they're actually more worried if it succeeds, because then they won't know where to go because they're clueless. They're just following. And that's why they love those instructions. Tell me, list from 1 to 100. How do I go from making eye contact to how many thrusts do I do at the end of the night?
Yeah. What's my finishing move?
And if they don't have a perfect 100% foolproof bubble wrapped way of articulating the entire conversation that makes logical sense in an illogical world, because people are, Carl said it before, relationships are messy. People are messy, sometimes irrational, but for the most part predictable. If they can't quantify that with computer algorithm accuracy, don't even want to start, because heaven forbid you have to improvise or think something up on the fly that might work or might not.
Yeah, well, I'm going to jump in with my thing here, just because I think it's the antithesis of what Ryan said, because I think many men are deathly scared about feedback from reality on their actual value. It's very easy to sit in your basement. Performance. Well, people will build themselves up, like they'll never do any kind of higher education, but they think that they're smarter than professors who spent their whole life studying. They never approach a girl, but they think they have more rock solid game than a guy who's approached 500. They've never actually done any of the work. And if they went out and did something in the world, they would get hard feedback on their actual value, which is very valuable because it allows themselves to go back and start rebuilding themselves into a more valuable version. But without that, you can sit there in your little delusion bubble and just be like, I'm the smartest guy ever. I've got gorilla pimp game. Well, have you ever produced any intellectual content? No, but I can post Nietzsche quotes on fucking Twitter all day. And it's a way of kind of building themselves up as this giant. And then in reality, it's the Wizard of Oz. It's like, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. And it's because the way I see it, the more success humanity has had as a species, it correlates very strongly with how reality oriented we are. The closer our perception of reality aligns with reality, the more successful we are at influencing reality in the direction we want it to go. And the more delusional we are about reality, the more our society falls down because we lose our ability to actually manipulate our environment. And that's all game really is. It's all any of this is your ability as a man to influence reality in the direction you want reality to go. And that gets somewhat philosophical, I know, and it's a complex topic, but if you look at it, the gym is the perfect metaphor. You can go into the gym, you can lift, and you can transform the reality of your body. And how well you're able to do that is reflective of how well aligned your perception of what it takes to change your body is with the reality of what it takes. You can't do 3 bench presses and expect to grow a chest like Lee Priest. And ultimately, I think that's the major hang-up that most men have, is just that they're not scared of success. They're deathly scared of being less valuable than they built themselves up to be in their mind.
I'll just say this too. A reason why guys don't go for it is because they just got too much ego. They have too much pride. And it kind of ties into what Carl said. Like, they cannot tolerate rejection. And a guy would rather sit down and rationalize his entire shitty existence than actually critically analyze himself and make the proper adjustments in order to live the life that he wants to live. And that's why when guys like us 4 do it, there is nothing but a bounty of riches, sexually, financially, the whole 9 yards, because so few people are willing to do the work. If I may quote our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. And get to work, and boy, oh boy, you'll eat till you're fat, boys. I'm telling you.
I think a lot
Amen.
of I think
Hallelujah.
sometimes it's guys having to flush out this old way of thinking about things, because when you understand, for lack of a better term, when you understand the red pill, when you understand intersexual dynamics, it's counterintuitive to what you've been taught for a very long time. So if you're a little boy and you're 5 years old and all of your female teachers and your mom and your sister and Disney and everybody else has said, girls are one way, girls are like this. If you identify with them, if you support them, if you are sensitive to their needs, if you're a good listener, if you put women and a woman and womankind on the pedestal, and you are there to be their ally and to uplift them and to all of this bullshit, all this blue pill bullshit, okay, all this stuff. And then suddenly you realize that you're on, guys find the red pill because of a crisis, right? They usually find it because they want to get their girlfriend back, or they did something wrong, or else maybe they're just simply still virgins at 26 years old. And then they sort of do that evaluation and wondering why it is what they're doing isn't working. And then along comes Rollo Tomasi and he says, you should do it this way, or have you thought of this? Maybe women aren't exactly the way that you've been led to believe for like half of your life right now. Maybe you should try this. There's that instinct, because when you've been conditioned to that understanding about women and intersexual dynamics of the blue pill way for so long, saying something like that is like, it's like saying, God is dead, right? It's like saying that this, like Santa Claus is not.
Well, you are. It's the woman of Wollendorf. That's the ancient fertility figure.
So,
that's exactly what they're worshiping.
They want to believe that women are one way when you show them. I think that's one, like when we talk about like the 5 stages of unplugging, which are the 5 stages of grief, it's the reason that it's, dealing with like the stages of grief are all about death, or like accepting your own mortality. Like guys who get a a death sentence. Basically, the guys are saying, well, you only have 6 months to live, sir. And then so you go through those stages, and the last one, of course, is acceptance. But some of those are like denial, and you're resistant to understanding what's going on. And the reason for that is because the personality that you have built up for yourself till the time you're 26 years old and you're still a virgin is the product of all of that blue pill conditioning. And so when somebody comes along and says, no, women are actually like this, first of all, you're going to resist that. You're going to say, oh, well, that Rolo guy, he's just a misogynist. He's not, that stuff really doesn't work. And then when they see that it is actually working, when they see it happen in real time, like on the show there, that's when they kind of have to stand up and take notice. And they have to, like, suddenly their perfect ideal of women is shattered for them. So they have to
they blame it on low quality women.
Well, exactly.
So
that was the next step. The next step is disqualify those results, disqualify them because there was something that was wrong. There was mitigating factors. She's damaged. You're doing that because you're manipulative, and she's naive. There's something that happened along the way that they wanted to find some way to disqualify what it is that you just did that worked. And then when you constantly repeat that over and over and over again, then they make that into, okay, those are low quality women. These are high quality women. She has low self-esteem. She has high self-esteem. And so they want to find ways to force fit their blue pill conditioned ideals into the results that you show them through game, through red pill awareness, that kind of stuff. And so then they have to get past that disqualification point where it's like, okay, you will only get what you have gotten if you keep doing what you have done. And so these guys keep going back to the same thing over and over and over again. And they can get results. I'm not saying that blue pill guys don't get laid. They do, but they're not getting laid in the way that they would like to. They're not getting laid with the women that they would like to. They're not having relationships with women that in the way that they would like to, because they are still resistant to understanding the nature of men and women. And so when you consider that and you say, and now they're just say that these guys are at that position now where they're past the disqualification, they're past the conditioning. Now they kind of have to fight against that subconscious, resistance that they would have. Like when you, like, I don't know about you guys, but I've never bungee jumped, but I will tell you right now, if you put a bungee jump or a bungee cord on me and you put me on like the edge of a bridge, I would be hesitant to throw myself off the end of that bridge, even though the bungee, I see people do it all the time and it looks like a whole lot of fun.
I'll never do that shit.
I would, yeah, I know. Or skydiving or something that is like inherently dangerous to you. You have that visceral survival, like, holy shit, I'm gonna do this. Are you out of your fucking mind? Like, Dude,
I don't even like standing near the window of a tall building. I feel like it's gonna suck me out.
Or, some people like have a fear of heights. I don't have a fear of heights, but like I because I know if I'm in control and I can look down and everything, I'm cool. But like if they're saying, okay, jump, then yeah, you're gonna have so getting over that part. Like we have to human beings are naturally averse to conflict. We don't want to be in situations where the potential for like physical harm is actually a reality. So we have to train ourselves to be prepared for those situations. So we learn, martial arts, or we get into a position where we intentionally put ourselves into spots where we can get our asses kicked. Like, when I'm doing martial arts, or if I'm doing fencing or something like that, yeah, you try to take precautions and everything, but your goal is to actually go out there and try to hurt that other person. And even if you're just trying to score points, the physical act of you being conflicting with another person is something that most human beings are averse to. And so and the reason for that is because we have this innate sense of self-preservation. So now you have to get past that self-preservation, and that preservation is like, if I do this, I'm not only am I going to fail, I'm going to be ridiculed. She's going to go on Instagram and put my picture on there and tell all the girls not to ever have anything to do with me. I'm a creep, blah, blah, blah. And so you start thinking of all these things. And so that's the fear of that. It's like fear of conflict, because really that's what you're doing, is you're conflicting with another person. You're trying to convince that girl that you are, and then I'm not saying it's a physical or like a violent conflict. I'm just saying it's a conflict of wills. Like you want to get with this girl and hopefully she's into you. And then there's a reciprocation there and you can actually go to the dance and dance, right? Instead of her just pushing you off and fighting you, which is what your subconscious believes is going to happen. And because now suddenly all bets are off. Women aren't exactly the way that you were led to believe by Walt Disney. They are what Ryan and Carl and Rollo Tomasi said that they were going to be. So now it's a whole different game and you don't know what you're getting into. So you rely on that instinct. And that's another thing. I think that's an obstacle that guys have to get over, is that instinct to want a buffer, that instinct to step away from the edge. So that rather than have the fun of jumping in the bungee jump, you opt for the safety side of things. And I think a lot of guys are taught that right now, because I think most guys have a feminine primary education. So mommy says, walk on the safe side of the sidewalk. Don't take chances. Don't jump. Right. Where, if dad was around, most fathers, most normal alpha fathers will teach their son the value of accepting risk. Whereas for women and mommies don't want that risk. They want that security. I've talked about this on dozens of occasions where I say that, women, because they're the weaker sex, because they are the ones who have the most investment when it comes to gestation and nurturing children, and because, our hunter-gatherer beginnings, men had to go out there and take a risk. They had to go out there and try to kill the woolly mammoth, even though they might get killed by something else while they're out there. Women are around the campfire, they're picking berries, they're coming together, they're talking with each other, they have a better means of communication. So they're looking for security. Where in the tribe, the women folk are looking for the security, and that comes off in their evolved nature, whereas men are more risk tolerant. Women are more risk averse. Well, when you raise a boy in women culture and when the sisterhood raises boys, it raises those boys to be risk averse. It raises those boys to be security providers and not to go run around outside too long, not to, don't shoot the BB gun, you'll shoot your eye out, kid, that kind of thing, right? So we have actually probably several generations of boys who believe in that risk averseness rather than being risk tolerant. So I think that's another thing. And then so what happens is that sort of locks in with our survival instinct to step away from the edge and don't take those chances and don't go out there, or everything has to be in its perfect order. It has to be like, I was reading this one, there's this really great quote. Orinoco Wellington says, I can't start driving until all the lights along my route are green, right? Everything has to be perfect for me to want to take that chance. I want to know that there's absolutely no possibility that I'm going to have any problem, or I'm going to get me too'd, or I have to know that all this, life is risk, and certainly going out with women is risk. And you think guys need to become a little bit more, first of all, comfortable in their own bodies, and I don't mean that in the dad bod term. I mean like comfortable in their own person, and they have to understand that it's okay. It's okay to take risks. It's okay to go skydiving. It's okay to go do those things, because the fun is in the risk. And manage that risk as much as you can, but you still need to go out there and put yourself out there. And yeah, you're going to probably get rejected, but it's only a failure if you don't learn anything from it, or if you say, fuck it, I tried that once and I don't want to have anything to do with that anymore. So I'm just going to sit over here and I'm going to go buy this girl's bathwater because she's really cute, and that's an easy, safe thing to do. And I can actually have some sort of comfort because I bought some cute little anime girl's bathwater. And now Instagram. Oh, did she? And now I'll just be a 27-year-old virgin with a collection of girls' bathwater.
Yeah. She no, I think they just talk about haters in general. No, they collectively reported her account, but she's a female. She'll be back for sure.
Oh yeah, they can't keep something like that. Well, I the reason I keep bringing her up is because I heard this one podcast about this guy who was, I don't know if he's a MGTOW or not. He might. I didn't get the impression he was, but he might be. This guy was talking about
what
why.
Was this Be Real? Was it anime footage?
No,
I can safely say MGTOW then.
Well, but like the guy was trying to explain why it is that all these guys would pay $30 a jar for this cute little girl's bathwater. And I watched some. I'm like, who the hell is this? And I was looking at her. She's got videos of her like with those little ears and those little anime ears. And I will give her credit. She's got the hustle down because she knows exactly her market and she knows exactly what these guys want. And she does that kind of like, she talks like this and she's kind of, oh, I'm so sexy. That kind of like neuro-linguistic, whatever the fuck it is.
ASMR.
And she's like eating like a raw egg and she's just smiling the whole, and like, in any other context, you'd be like, you'd be scared of it. But like these guys love that because she looks like Sailor Moon or whatever the hell anime Aaron Clary could tell me exactly what anime she is. But like when I look at that and this guy was explaining to this, why would guys pay good money, like $30 a jar for this woman's bathwater? And then he says, you have to look at the generation that's doing that. And it's these guys who have spent most of their lives, certainly all of their high school years and a good portion of their 20s, isolated. And I'm not saying like hikikomori isolated, but just like isolated in the sense that they're always online and their only education when it comes to socializing, when it comes to actually talking with people, their only education is in the digital realm. So they understand how to communicate with people, but they only do it like through YouTube, or they do it through Instagram, or they do it through whatever. And they never have that one-on-one, face-to-face. I mean, there's risk involved with just talking to somebody face-to-face. There is little risk to that. So you've got these guys who are like 26 years, and this is what he said. He said, you got guys who are 26 years old, and they're virgins, and their only understanding, their only education with respect to, interpersonal relationships with women and girls is online. It's only like you want to talk about buffers. It's not just texting. It's the only communication I have with my friends, or the only communication I have with women, is by tapping on the keyboard. And there's never this, face to face. And so she represents this ideal. She represents, she's completely fake, and she makes a ton of money off of it and does it very well, but she represents an ideal, and that ideal is the living embodiment of that cute little anime character, whoever the hell that is. And they even just having that one little bit of physical connection, because everything is taken care of for these guys. They don't have like pornography accounts for their libido. You can work from home. You don't even have to actually interact with any. If you're a coder or whatever, you can have your own private studio or whatever, and you never have to walk outside the house. You can have everything delivered to your door. It's like Ready Player One. Remember the guy? Oh, I forget the kid's name. He's living in the stacks, right? You never have to leave the stacks.
I was just going to say what you will about sex dolls. At least they cost money. Porn's free.
Porn is free. Yes.
Oh my God.
So their entire acculturation, of their socialization, of their understanding. Like we have to. I've talked about this before. Though guys were like, I talked about the adolescent social skill set, where people will get to a point in their social education and social maturity, and they'll be retarded at some point. And I mean that in the clinical sense. I mean, it retards their development into something else. And so you'll get guys who become serial monogamous. That's why, like when I say, when I tell guys, you need to spin plates, people like for that mindset, that is like an alien thought to them. Like I could never do, I could, but then they'll make up the reasons and they'll disqualify why you're a player and you shouldn't do that. But just the thought of having more than one, interpersonal relationship with a woman going concurrently is like that doesn't even, it never even enters their mind. Well, that's because they don't have a greater social understanding. They don't have, they're still stuck in that adolescent social skill set. So you got guys who have, like, this is what happens when guys, they marry their high school sweetheart, or they knock up a girl at 18 or 19, and then they have to become the father, and they have to become the husband all of a sudden very, very early. That stunts their socialization when it comes to understanding women. So you get a guy who's like got married at 19, and then suddenly he's divorced and finds himself single at about 35 years old, and he's still thinking that the way that he interacts with women is how he used to back when he met his wife at 18 or 17 when they were in high school. And so that stunts that maturity that he would have gotten had he stayed single and had he, moved into his 20s and understood how to deal with women and how to deal with men as well. And so like I can pick that out really quickly when I see guys who are still reliant on that adolescent social skill set. I can pick out the guys that never really developed past that because of the things what they're saying or why they're risk averse or things like that. But the reason why this girl is successful in that is because all of those needs are taken care of except for one, and that's the physical. They can't have that actual human contact. They can't have that. Even when you buy a sex doll, it's still a rubber doll and it's not loving you back. It's just, you bang it, I guess, and put it in a closet and then you come back to it when you need to. There's no physical element that's going on there. And there's still that human need, I think, for that contact or for that. Like why don't incels just simply come to Nevada and pay me $500 and I'll go get them laid at one of the ranches here? They don't do that because they want that genuine desire. They want that genuine contact or that genuine connection with a woman. And that's why this chick is successful at what she does, because she gives them just that one glimmer of hope. Like, here, this water, it touched my ass. Here, okay, cool. Then they'll buy they'll risk their relationships to buy ass water.
Literally a thirst trap.
yeah, literally a thirst trap. And so that's it's interesting. Like when I was listening to this, I'm like, this is an education, man. This is an education in what's going on right now. And I hate to say it, but like this is the generation that my daughter is going to be entering into very soon. And see, like my daughter's number one complaint is that guys don't approach. Like guys, like even at the college that she's at, guys are very, I mean, I think maybe a lot of them are intimidated because of her looks, but like she gets upset. Like the guys that actually make an approach, she is like, oh my God, a dude actually approached. Cause I mean, she's Royal Tomasi, she's my daughter. So she sees all this stuff and she understands, like when I've talked to her about approach anxiety and all this other crap, I said, these guys don't want to approach you because they're fear of rejection, or they just disqualify themselves from ever even attempting to, because they think that you're so far out of their league that they wouldn't even bother with something like that. And even the good looking ones will do that. Like they don't, they're like, I don't know, hands off. They have never had that acculturation or that socialization to say, risk rejection, go out there and make that risk.
Well,
too much ego.
Change the topic here, but there was a very interesting thing you said there about the social retardation of guys at an adolescent level.
Mm-hmm. Here it comes.
But that happens to exactly two types of guys. It happens to the guys you said there who are just socialized by the internet, but it also happens to the blue pill alphas. The guy who is he's an alpha and he gets that success with women, but he's also in that serial monogamous mindset. So even if he's divorced like 3 times over, he'll still want to kind of lock down and be in that marriage or in that long-term relationship, and he won't really spin plates.
Yeah.
And those are kind of the worst guys to deal with, because like I can deal with a chump where you can just tell him, well, you know what, she still won't fuck you. And he slinks back under his rock and complains about you on Twitter. It's much worse to deal with a guy who will fight you in real life and actually will do that because you insult him, belayed his honor. And those guys perhaps need help the most, because at least the guys who are buying bathwater, I'm more of a fan of bath salts, by the way, because at least that can put me on someone's face.
There it is. There's the hook.
No, I agree. I've seen it. Fallen alpha types, they literally they act like the same as way women do, where they don't have to mature past a certain point of social acuity because they've never had to. And all it is it's borrowed time. One injury, one set of weight gain, anything that loses you from that top apex amount of looks and charisma, and you're completely left at square one. The problem is then you tend to be 45 years old with nothing to show for it. And so the only response you tend to give out is rage, because your entire worldview was predicated on people are normally like you are when you're 6'2" Chad. And the problem with that is that when a guy's in the most need of help, he's at his most unattractive in behaviors. And so those guys self-destruct miserably. Like I've seen it in my house. That was my stepfather to a T.
Yeah.
You know,
What?
those are the ones who end up eating the bullet because you know the
Yes.
guys who are sitting there, you know, bathing in bathwater, they're never going to meet an actual girl, and they're never going to get that punch to the face. But the guy who was Chad and suddenly has gone from being, you know, Chad to being Al Bundy, that guy will love to make out with the business end of a 45 ACP if he gets one more hit than he can handle, and those are the guys who really do make a difference, but they tend to accumulate a lot of damage from the way they live. Either be it sports injuries because you know contact sports are rough on the body, be it taking on too much risk and getting hit hard in business.
Yeah.
If it's you know getting married 5 times and you know how your wife hiring a team of black guys off Don't Be Dot Soy to bang her while you're busy pursuing your mission.
Even the ones that don't, that 20 years of stress to be able to get to that point, that takes its toll.
You know, it's funny. I've had guys tell me that like the girl, whatever her name is, Daphne or Daphne or whatever the hell her name is, like she's she's got some guy that is like pimping her, like some dude behind all of
your
that.
boyfriend.
Yeah, her boyfriend is, and so either she knows the market, and maybe she does, but he definitely does, and he knows what he can, you know, how they can make a shit ton of money because there's a generation of lost boy guys who. And they're getting older, who are thirsty, like they're literally thirsty like this.
It's the dude. Do you remember when the Tates were talking on that?
Yeah, I was just about to bring up Andrew. He's like, yeah, the thing is it's so predictable right now. And I would think, and you want to know why I'm unpopular to a lot of people whose businesses depend on all this, is because here we are talking about this saying, guys, you need to wake the fuck up. You need to get out there and improve yourself. That's why there's, because if you're attacking that market, that's one of the reasons why I think Rich is sort of unpopular in some ways, because Rich is out there saying, do the work, get out there, become the best version of yourself. When he does anything that is preventive medicine, like preventive medicine, even the book, it's there to help guys sort of break out of being that kind of consumer. Because that's what these guys are. That's what this set of guys who are unwilling to go out there and do the practice, and either they're afraid or they're just simply given up on it. That's why I think that I don't believe in the black pill, but I think they understand the analysis. But their solution, once again, is something that is going to be detrimental to themselves and ultimately detrimental to society, which is just give up, don't do anything. You know, what's the point? Why bother at all? Let's just go Nietzsche and nihilism and everything else. I think that you can live a better life if you have the proper tools. How are you going to become the best person that you can be? How can you break out of this negative feedback loop? Well, you have to be given the tools to do that. So that was one thing I want to say. The other thing is, like, before we because we're coming up on 2 hours here, but I want to end at least by giving guys some sort of actionable advice here. Like, what can they do to start to get out of the house, to get out and go into the world? And I mean, I can say, hey, go read the Rational Male. That's great. And people will say that even just like that knowledge changes their minds about things, and then they start implement changes in their lives. But I don't give 12 rules for life. I don't have like a formula. I don't have the cheat codes. I can't make you play in God mode, but I can give you the tools. But what are some things that these guys can do that will initiate some real change that they can use? Like, how do they go out there and they use the red pill to improve their lives?
I got a simple one. Okay. This is what you do. First and foremost, all you guys listening to me, stop watching porn and stop jerking off. Okay. This is going to be a huge thing that will drive up your internal desire for sex. Secondly, what you're going to do is you're going to start going to the gym and lifting weights, not running, not cardio, not the elliptical. You're going to start lifting weights. This is naturally going to raise your testosterone level. Third, anytime you find a woman sexually attractive, you're just going to walk up to her, say hi, initiate a conversation, ask her on a date. Third, or whatever number is next, you're going to go and ask the girl that you got her number from, ask her on a date, and then you're going to go on a date with her, get her life story, and then from there, you're going to ask her to go hang out at your place or her place and try to have sex with her. If you just do that, lather, rinse, repeat, you will have more success than 80% of all men out there, period.
You'll change yourself up, that's for sure. You change your
Yeah.
mind. I think it's important for guys to change their minds about themselves. And that's really hard. They don't get to that unless they feel good about themselves. That's what's one main like people say, well, you want to go get to the gym and you need to put on X amount of muscle mass or whatever. Yeah, okay, sure. I 100% agree with that. But like also the good feelings that come, like the endorphins that come along with that, will change your mind about yourself. Go ahead.
I would dick right on that one totally. Other than to add, do all this stuff once, and then find where your sticking points are, and there's where you wanted to get into books and learn. So as you're doing it each time, you're performing an iterative loop. They call them OOD loops: observe, orient, direct, and then act. So yeah, you walk up to a girl to go say hi, ask them on a date. Let's say you screw up stumbling your words. Now you know, okay, openers is my weak point. Then you look up a little bit of openers, try it again until you get better at it. Let's say you go to the gym and you realize you're lifting crappy girl pink weights and you don't know what you're doing. Well, there's your weak point there. You don't know what a workout program is, so you got to learn there. But you take John's thing, do it the first time, you're going to screw it up. Go screw it up as fast as possible, but pay attention to where you screw up and then focus on that until you stop screwing that up. And like you said, lather, rinse, repeat. After about 100 times of screwing everything up, you're going to stop screwing things up.
You'll start seeing patterns too. You'll start noticing things. This is why I have razor sharp body language understanding as well, because I've been on so many dates with so many women. I've seen the same patterns. If you do things enough, you're going to start noticing patterns if you have a fraction of situational awareness.
Right.
And that being said, man, dude, this has helped me. I've made $70,000 in 1 month due to some of this information that I've learned from going on these, from Matthias saying like, oh, 600 dates is a waste of time. No, you sitting there bitching on the internet, complaining about advice you're getting absolutely free from guys who are accomplished and killing it in the real world. That is a fucking waste of time.
Right.
You got a point.
Well, here's one thing that when I'm doing coaching calls, particularly with younger guys, when I'm talking to guys who are they might not be virgins, but they're not getting the level of success that they want to see. A lot of them will say, well, in my area, there's only this kind of girl. Well, get out of that area. I mean, find a different venue. And this goes, I think if I have some actionable advice, it's don't be domain dependent, because even blue pill guys can still get laid, but they do so because it's formulaic to them. Like they understand how to go from like point A to point B with a certain type of girl in a certain type of situation at a certain time of the night, that kind of thing. Break out of that pattern, because what happens is guys will be like, well, I'm like this, or they'll convince themselves that their personality is such, like I'm an introvert, or I'm a INJF, or whatever the fuck, whatever imaginary bullshit they think. Like they'll think about that, and they'll keep themselves locked into that understanding of themselves. But that understanding of themselves is created because they're in a particular environment. They're in a cultural, they live within a cultural theme. They live within a particular area, wherever it is that they're at. They'll say there's only one, like if you're living in Butte, Montana, or wherever, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, you're not going to have the same social situations as if you were living as a 20-some-odd-year-old person in South Beach or Miami. Okay, there's differences in the women you're going to meet, their attitudes and everything else. So get out of those domains that you are yourself dependent on, and learn how to change that up. So like when guys say like, oh, I'm into a day game and I like to pick up girls on the streets, that's a tough gig. I mean, I look at that and I go, with no loud music, with no girls hanging around, and it's not a girls' night out, no alcohol, anything. It's just you just meet a girl on the street and you chat her up and you get a number. Maybe you see her after that or whatever. I know Nick Krauser was the master of that for a while. Tom Torero is another great guy. But then if you ask them, say, okay, what do I do at college? What do I do in my in my Bible study? What do I do inside the club? What do I do? And then they can tell you one way of doing things because it works for them. And I think a lot of guys get stuck on what ends up being successful. So you get these guys who they become chubby chasers. They go, "Oh, I prefer fat women." No, you don't prefer fat women. It's just that at one point you were sexually successful with a fat chick, and you see that as the easiest, or the path of least resistance. Or I like single moms. They're great. They try harder. And it's like, well, if all you've ever had is a single mom, then yeah, I'm sure you have a quote unquote preference for that. Actually, it's a fetish for that because that was sexually, productive for you in the past. And so you come back to that.
From experience, it's total bull, by the way.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I understand, and we know. And I dated one single mother in my rock star 20s.
So you're smarter than me. I did 3.
Yeah, once was enough, man. Once was definitely enough.
Same. Once was enough for me. Same.
Well, so you need to. I think, first of all, you need to give yourself permission to be someone new. To I think was in one of the 48 laws of power is, don't accept the roles that society places on you. Act like a king, or act like a king to be a king. And most guys see themselves as one way, and that if they try to act out in any kind of different pattern, that makes them a fake or a phony, or they're a poser, right? You're a poser. The only people who are going to call you a poser are people who already know you in the domain that you're already in. So if you were to go for, like, say you lived in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and you're like, you know what, fuck it, I need to change. I'm going to go out and I'm going to do something different. And you move to South Beach or wherever, and you start getting into that. People, they don't know you from anybody else. Suddenly you're an introvert in Idaho, and now you're in Florida, and now you're an extrovert, and people don't know any different because they don't know. People say, well, you're going to manifest things that are in your behaviors that are going to give you away. Well, yeah, but you still have to change your mind about yourself. You say, I am giving myself permission to go out there and to talk to girls. I'm going to give myself permission to be somebody different. And that's one of the reasons why I get so bent out of shape with these guys in Myers-Briggs and astrology and all this stuff, where they want to peg people as certain personality types. Personality is not static. There are certain characters and certain personality traits you will have, and you'll hang on to because you're comfortable in those. But it is not a state. Who you are now is not going to be who you're going to be like in the next actually year or to 2 years even.
Rollo, what's your astrology sign?
I'm an Aries.
That's such an Aries thing to say.
Yeah, it is. It's totally Aries. Only an INJF would say something like that. Yeah. Well, so I'm just saying is that you need to. Here's your actionable advice. Change your mind about yourself and break out of whatever the domain that you are in right now, and watch what happens. Like, get out there and even if it's funny because like you get these guys who we talk about guys who are LARPing, live action role playing.
Oh, do
and
we
they want to be somebody, and we go, okay, who the hell talks like these and thous and churls and all this other crap? Nobody actually uses those words in
churls
in actual conversation. And so
Lord.
we look at that and we go, oh, you're trying to be somebody you're not. Well, that's because we have a preconception of who that person is. But if we don't know who that person is, it's like we are who we want to be on the internet. We can say whatever we want to be, unless people are like, so one of the reasons I think people get really upset about doxing is because you have this persona that you are when you're online, and then you have this persona with your wife and your kids, or your persona with your family, or your persona at work, and they don't realize that there's some carryover of traits, but you are actually playing different roles for different things that you're doing. How is that any different? Why don't you play the role of a guy who gets laid? Play the role of a guy who goes out there and gives himself permission to go and chat girls up and be in some way engaging. Right? Why don't you go? Why just
put your own girl in the bathwater and drink that water?
Exactly. Well, and then it's like guys will say, well, fake it to make it or something like that. Yeah, there is, but just make sure that you make it. Make sure that ends up becoming something that you're like guys will always say that what you call PUA or game is fake, man. I can't hold that up. I can't be who that is. Well, once you've internalized that, once you've internalized the red pill, once you internalize your new understanding of intersexual dynamics, you can't help but change. You're going to change in some way because you're not going to see the world in the same way. God knows MGTOWs and black pill guys, they're definitely seeing the world in a different way right now, and they're reacting to it in a particular way. Why not react to it positively? Why not use that to your benefit? So go ahead, Carl.
Well, to be honest with you, everything you guys have been talking about while I've been eating ice cream for the last 25 minutes. And by the way, ice cream is a great way to get up your teeth, or at least get some enjoyment out of life when it's hot as balls.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's all about rationalization and lying to yourself. And this is one of my biggest freaking pet peeves with this entire space and men in general. It's rationalizing your necessities as a virtue. It's taking whatever you can get and making that your goal. It's putting the cart before the horse, and the only person who suffers because of it is you. Because when you lie to yourself, other people lie to you. And every time you lie, you incur a debt to the truth. And sooner or later, that debt hits you, whether that's a divorce, whether that's your wife or girlfriend cheating on you, whether that's waking up when you're 55 and realizing that you've been sitting in front of your computer being the big man online and you're sitting there in a minimum wage apartment. No, it hurts no one except you, unless, of course, you get into life coaching and start telling other guys to do whatever it is you do. So just dare to be brutally honest with yourself and to hold yourself accountable at all times. And it's not hard to do that, and it's not rough on you. It's actually easier on you than lying to yourself, because when you lie to yourself, you have highs where you're actually buying your own bullshit, and then you have those lows when you get that hard hit that really makes it clear to you that what you're doing is lying to yourself. And most guys don't even realize that they're lying to themselves. They're perfectly happy married to that single mom, or shoving that 12th cupcake into their fucking mouth.
And live streaming it. Don't forget live streaming it.
And you know what? You do you. It's fair enough. Like I said it earlier, I'm never going to tell a guy how he should construct his life. But don't live in a cardboard box and tell yourself you're a millionaire in a penthouse. Just be honest with yourself, because if you're honest with yourself about your situation, then you can actually start to take steps from, okay, this is my real situation now. This is the situation how I want it. And I'm going to start working in steps towards that goal. And that's why I like Quincy, the truck driver who's intermittent fasting, who's down like pounds now. He's putting in the work, and he realized this is not the guy I want to be, and I'm going to make those changes. And it's not that if you're living in bumfuck Idaho right now, and you're like, the only two girls here is, there's a cat and a goat, and that goat is really playing hard to get. Freaking move. If you're sitting there and you're out of work, well, start looking for work. And worst case scenario, you can always be a life coach. That's always your escape plan. You can take some nice pictures of yourself and start charging guys $300 an hour for playing on Jemima or whatever the hell that chick who did the advice column is. Like, Leo made millions bullshitting people over the phone. That could be you if you don't have other options. So there's no excuse for accepting a lifestyle that you're not comfortable with. And, same thing with marriage. If you've been married 30 years and your wife hasn't touched you in 20, just divorce her. I mean, yeah, it's not going to be great and it's going to be painful for a period of time, but at least that way you can get laid again. It's like treating the longevity of a relationship as the only success metric is just stupid. Yes. It's like, if I was in a relationship with a girl who stabbed me every 3 days while I was brushing my teeth, I would be in a relationship, but it wouldn't be a very good relationship. The only person benefiting from that relationship would be the fucking trauma surgeon. It's like, it's like, figure out, like, John has his life. So, like, I'll never sit in front of a green screen in a bathrobe podcasting all day. That's not the lifestyle I want, but John really enjoys that. It's like, this is about the whole thing is we can give you tips on how to move from where you are today to where you want to be in some years from now in an overarching macro. But none of us can, take you out, run game with you, and coach you over earphones while you pick up a girl. Then when you take her back to your place, we stand outside with a fucking bongo drum hitting the beat so you don't fuck up the rhythm while you're banging her.
I was going to say, wasn't that a sketch on Ellen?
Yeah.
That's just the whole thing with it. Just figure out what the hell you want and stop having everyone else tell you. And you'll notice the one major difference between this show and most other shows on this topic is every other show has like, you have to be this type of qualitative man. You have to be this kind of God-fearing. You have to contribute to Westerns. If they're all giving you goals and none of them are asking what you want. All of them are telling you what you should want and why you should want it. And how is your fault for being a lazy cunt who hasn't done it already? And it sickens me. Figure out what you want and move from there. If that's, I don't care what it is, just figure something out. And rent.
Yeah. You will only get what you have gotten if you keep doing what you have done. Yes, that's great because I think that's interesting because usually it comes down to a value call. It's a judgment value, right? Like this is, the reason that you are not living the life that you want to is because you're not understanding, or you're not pursuing meaning, you're not pursuing excellence. You're not pursuing, it's like, it ends up becoming a value call as opposed to like, what can you practically do? Where do you need to start? Where can you, like John saying, you go lift weights. Yeah, go do that. That's something that's actionable. Like guys will always tell me like, what's more important? Is looks more important, or money more important, or is game more important? And like, they're all three very, very important. Right. But what do you have the most control over at this moment? Like if you went and you got yourself in shape, right? If you were even within normal body weight for your BMI or whatever, you would be ahead of the game. You would be ahead of the Western population by at least 66%. Because was it 66, 68% of like I know the US population is overweight. If you were one of the guys that was not overweight, you have already put yourself ahead of the game at least by 60 some odd percent. You need to learn game. You need to, and yeah, I'm not saying that money is not important. It is. It's not the most important thing. You can still get laid without it, but it's like, what do you want to do? I think Carl, you really hit that one because I think a lot of guys don't ask themselves, what do I want for me? I don't want to. One of the reasons I don't give prescriptions is because I can't get inside your head to find out what it is that would be best for you or what you want. People have told this to me, and not just people in the red pill, but like I've had people just even outside that I know, from other, social circles will say, I want what you got. How did you get it? How did you get a woman like Mrs. Tomasi? How did you have such a gorgeous daughter? And how come you have such a great relationship? How is your family? I want what you got. How do I get what you got? I don't have an answer for that because I know how I did it, but I don't know how you can do it because I don't know you. I don't know what your situation is. I don't know what your domain is. I don't know what your acculturation is. I can give you the tools for you to figure out what it is you want, and I can give you the tools to at least point you in the right direction. But anybody who's telling you, I've got this list of things that you need to go down, or I've got a belief set here that if you follow this, you'll have the perfect life. You need to decide that comes out here and that comes from right here. You have to figure out what it is that you want to do and what the direction is that you want to go. Use the tools to get you there, but you are the one that needs to give yourself permission to make a change your mind about yourself, and then decide what it is that you want to do in the direction that you want to go. All right. We're actually past the 2-hour mark right now. This has been a really eclectic show. I think this has been really pretty good. I definitely want to talk about vetting when we have Rich on. I think he's going to be on maybe not next week, but the week after, I think is what he said. And so I want to make sure that we have Rich in for that one, because that's going to be a feisty show. I can tell. We might have 5 guys for that. If John, if you want to join us on that one too, you can. I kind of want to keep us at a maximum of 5. 4 feels about right. for this. So, anyways, what do you guys got going that you want to let everybody know about before we close?
I'm going to be on the Raj Patel show today at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Raj Royale. If you guys want to come vote for me in the chat. Interview with the Man, Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is when I do my free daily call-in show for all you guys that are crying about, oh, you got to pay consultation fee. Come leech data for free. The phone lines are open.
Right.
Literally.
And I will help you out with the play-by-play for at least one of those things.
Dude, I need your help
we'll
today
do
if
that
you
again.
can.
We'll do that again this week.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to be on it literally in, Eastern time. It's like, what, 1:46 right now for where you guys are? So in like 2.5 hours, I'll be on the Raj Patel show. I'll link it in the chat, but come support me. Come over there and support me, guys.
Will do. Ryan, what you got going on?
Me, I'm going on with Jack Napier tomorrow for his morning show. I think that's 7 or 8. Can't remember the book we're talking about, but I like being surprised. That way it forces me to remember what the heck I just read. That'll be the big one. And beyond that, I'm sick. I want a break. So leave me alone for a couple days. You know where to find me.
Right. Carl, what's up?
Well, I just created I put out my regular weekly essay, by the way. I'm noticing my view count is a little low. I'm guessing that's because of the weather has been really nice.
Yeah.
And then guys are getting out there and trying to get laid and drinking instead of, sitting at home eating cupcakes and reading my shit. I also started a Facebook page, and I have a Facebook account now thanks to Rian forcing me into the Mean Girl section.
Oh, yeah. You know what? We also have a Facebook for Rule Zero now. Thank you, Ryan, for initiating that.
Thank Rich. I was fighting it tooth and nail, but he says that's where people are, so get over there and quit being a pussy.
And that's good, and we need to have some sort of centralized place so people can find out when the next show is. So that, if you haven't already heard, we have a Rule Zero Facebook now, and you will find out who is hosting and when there.
Yeah. So I'm also in that group. That was the end of it. And I'll be doing Rule Zero with Ryan again next week. Look forward to another great rant once we determine the topic. And Ryan's promised that he'll step up his shirt games because I really can't work with the same White Henley show. It's like Ryan's version of Rolo's beanie.
I have multiple White Henleys. I love it.
We need to have like Hawaiian shirt episode or something like that.
Let's do it. I got plenty.
Yeah, we'll have bathrobe. We need bathrobe episode at some point.
When I went on the Masculine Geek, all the guys had bathrobes and sunglasses. I felt honored.
That's awesome.
That's great. So what I got going on, I'm sorry, were you done, Carl?
No, I was just going to say that if we're going to do a bathroom episode, we should do the hashtag she still won't fuck you t-shirt episode.
Yeah.
Maybe put that on a red ball cap or something.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. Make red hats great again.
Red hat. Yeah, we should do the red hat episode. What I got going on is John Hawkins just made the link available for my interview with him where I was talking about a lot of the misconceptions of the red pill. Go ahead and check that out. Look at my feed for it. I'll put the link in the description here too. I think that was pretty good, and I think people really. The problem is like the people that I really want to read that or to listen to that are probably people who wouldn't even bother anyways. But if that's your thing, check that out. I also did an interview. It was only a half-hour interview with Aubrey Huff, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with Aubrey. He was a former Major League Baseball first baseman or something like that. I think he played for the San Francisco Giants. But he's got his own podcast going on, and I went on for about 30 minutes with him this week. Once that becomes available, I'll put that out there. It was a sort of a quick hit, get to know you kind of thing. I will probably go back on with Aubrey again at some point. Good dude. And of course, I am always on with Pat Campbell on Friday mornings at 9:05 Eastern AM. That is AM 1170 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You can also find the link to that live from my Twitter feed, or you can go to Pat Campbell's Twitter feed and you'll find it there as well. Also tomorrow I will be on doing Irrational Male 101 with Pat. I don't know what our topic is going to be as of yet, but that will be tomorrow at 4:30 Eastern on this channel that you're watching right now. Also, please subscribe. Please pass on this URL, post it wherever you can. If you are a supporter of this show, the ways to support it are all in the description below. If this has added any kind of value to your life, that would be much appreciated. And even if you don't want to make a financial contribution of some sort, copy and paste the link into your Twitter, put it somewhere, tell some people about it. We're only semi-monetized. We're only yellow light monetized. So please spread the word. Also, if you haven't done so already, I could really use a good positive review on any of my books on Amazon. I always throw that out there. So that's the easiest, quickest, cheapest way to support the show. And with that, we will be back on again this time on Saturday. I believe we need to have John host. John, can you host this on your Twitter channel? Can you host Rule Zero?
When?
Next week?
Yeah, let's do it.
Saturday? Okay. John will be hosting next week.
Watching him calculate how much sleep he won't get.
Yeah,
we're good.
We'll have John host next week. And
Take one for the team.
So check out John's channel. If you haven't subscribed to anybody on here, please do hit the like button. I have not said that once during this entire podcast. And just to let you know, your support is much appreciated. I guess we will be seeing you guys soon. I have a new post. Go check it out. It's called Heirs of the Blank Slate. And with that, I will stop the broadcast. See you guys next week. Bye-bye.